Outstanding leadership requires dot dot dot. I'm going to fill in the blank. I'm going to talk about how meaning is necessary in any team, any organization, how there has to be a shared sense of purpose. There has to be an emotional connection to people. People, i.e., leaders, have to be very much aware. But why is there this sort of awareness and skill missing? I'm going to get into all of that. I am Serena. This is Think with Serena. Welcome. I am a strategic consultant, a systems thinker, also currently in my postgraduate study. I have more than 20 years experience in media and communications. I'm a chartered public relations practitioner. I'm also a streamer, commentator on media and politics. More of that can be found in the description of my video. I am also the director and founder of a new interdisciplinary think tank, Puck's House. You can find out more again in the description. I'm also here as a creator and educator. I absolutely love sharing my insights and my experience, especially considering that I'm also a multidisciplinary creative. You can come to my site and learn more about me. Let's get into this episode. What do you need to be an outstanding leader, or what do you need your outstanding leaders to be? So I am going to do a series here on leadership and why our leaders are failing or why they're doing so well. What is it that they are? What are the sort of characteristics and the skills and the competencies that they have that are actually allowing them to be better leaders? And connection is a really massive factor. Connection is a massive game changing ingredient. If you are able to connect with those who have to follow you, meaning because you're a leader, then you are definitely going to be able to engage with them. You're going to be able to earn their trust. So let's go through how this can come about. Firstly, let me know in the comments what brought you to this video. Why do you think the algorithm showed you this video? And if you're already subscribed to me, welcome back. What sparked your interest about this? Do you have any thoughts on leaders in your industry, in your space, or even in the world, as in world leaders? What are your thoughts? What makes them brilliant leaders and what makes them incredibly bad leaders? So I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. So, giving meaning or operating with meaning gives the leadership, the entire program, if you like, significance. You've got to make it significant for people. You've got to make it meaningful for them to invest in you, for them to even trust, make it worthwhile. So, why is it that they're not doing this? So, let's break this down. There are several ways that you can establish sort of this meaning, this significance in your operations and in your leadership. First thing, there has to be a shared sense of purpose. There has to be a shared sense of purpose. You, as the leader, shouldn't have a different sense or idea or articulation of the purpose, so different that it's in stark contrast to your team or the people that you lead. If there is a disconnect, then what you need to do is address it. Is a disconnect because your idea of what the purpose is most definitely antithetical to how others see it? Or perhaps your idea, the leader's idea of what the purpose is unrealistic. It's not in keeping with the reality. It's not in keeping with the experience of those within the organization. There has to be a shared sense of purpose across the organization. And it's not just about trickling down, it also floats up. You know how bubbles float up? It can't just be trickled down, it comes from leadership. It's much more relational than that. There has to be a sort of reciprocal engagement between those who are higher up in this hierarchical structure, if we have to, and and those sort of beneath this sort of red line of you've got seniors here and everyone else here. There has to be a much more of a awareness, a relational awareness, a relational engagement. And we can call this an emotional connection with people, an emotional connection for people, to recognize that you have humans working for you right now, to recognize that you have human beings with their own ideas and views and their own habits and peculiarities and quirks and productivity patterns. You have them with their own individual sense of purpose, their own values, and how they bring those values to work in order to share, sort of co-create with you in this shared sense of purpose. So you have to have an emotional connection to these people. But for you to be able to see them, you've got to be able to value the differences that they bring, or at least, at the very least, recognize what they bring that's different. Recognize that these people within your team, your organization, have their own way of looking at things. They're still going to deliver, they're still going to do things in a way that the organization requires in order to meet the objectives. They're going to do all of the above, but they're also going to do it in a way that is quite unique to them, their skills, their capabilities. How they deliver is also going to be dependent on those factors. So you've got to be able to see this. You've got to be able to appreciate it and not just tolerate it, appreciate it. Leaders need to invest in people in this way. Investing them doesn't just mean pay for training. Investing means investing your time and energy to foster these sort of connections and these relationships. It's not just, yes, my team undertook this group team training and we all did it together and then we all went down to the bar or to the pub for drinks or whatever. Investing in your team means that you should be completely happy to almost be like a therapist. You should be completely comfortable with having human conversations and not be so robotic. To be working on your empathy skills. You've got to absolutely have a deep understanding of people. To get to the passion bit, to get to the ethical bit, you've got to recognize that you are working for people, people are working for you, you are co-creating together, you're building together. And in order to do that, you have to have a deep understanding of them. Now, I'm not saying that the entire day you've got to be chummy, holding hands, fluffing pillows for everyone. I'm not. This isn't kindergarten. This is not toddler daycare, whatever. But you can't expect people to just operate like robots because they don't live like that, because they aren't robots. You've got to have a much deeper understanding of people, but that's only possible for a leader if the leader's not robotic. If the leader is a robot, forget about it. So having a deep appreciation and understanding of people means you've got to have a deep understanding and appreciation for yourself as a human, a multifaceted human. If you haven't already subscribed, please do consider doing so. But this is where we go into this sort of slightly fluffy spiritual ego arena, which is also very important for us to consider. To have a deeper understanding of people and who they are means having a level of self awareness. Not everybody has an reasonable level of self awareness, especially not reasonable enough to be a leader. And that's unfortunate because how are you in a position to lead others, to inspire them, to critically think for the organization, to be rational, to be strategic, when you don't have an awareness of yourself? And so we're going into this arena of ego, and I'm going to do a series on ego as well. You know, and I know, and this will be the sort of finishing thought on this particular episode. You know, and I know that when you are innovative, connecting, collaborating, you are in this almost flow state. And you will find that being in this flow state means you're very much present in the moment. Usually, when we're present in the moment, we are not in our head intellectualizing things. We don't have monkey mind, basically ego. You're present, you're connecting, collaborating, you're being creative. You have got to appreciate and understand and differentiate when you're in that state compared to your ego state. For people who don't have a reasonable level of self awareness, they usually don't have a reasonable understanding of their ego state. Okay, their ego state. And so they're perhaps leading with ego when they are leading. And that's a problem because they're thinking about themselves. They're perhaps overly intellectualizing things. They're not seeing people. They're not connecting with them. They're not understanding them because they've not done that themselves for themselves. And this is a massive, massive gap and an issue with leadership. Leaders who are not aware enough, who aren't critical thinkers enough, who aren't able to appreciate their own multifaceted selves, who aren't able to appreciate the sort of dichotomies of self, the dark and the light shading and the in between, all of those, let's say, nuances, all of those nuances. Do subscribe if you haven't already. You can also come to my site, do sign up to the newsletter on my think tank site. I've also got my Patreon where you can join in the conversations. I share stuff about my creative journey. You can sub to my streaming channel and also my personal YouTube channel. I will see you in the next video.